E.T. is stupid. And if you like it, you probably grew up back in the 80s when you were stupid too. This is my half-alien son, Meep. Say hi, Meep. And today I'm taking him to see E.T. and tell him why it's one of the most overhyped pieces of garbage to ever get shoveled down the throats of 80s kids. What's that? Oh, that's the audience. They're here to laugh this abomination as well. So let's get started. Aw, don't be scared, little buddy. That's just the movie starting. It's time to ruin E.T. for everyone. As you probably already well know, E.T. is the story of E.T the Extra-Terrestrial. No, it's extraterrestrial. This alien that looks like the Golgothan from Dogma had sex with Wall-E and made a toilet baby? That's E.T. Huh? Yeah, I know, that's what we thought aliens looked like back in the 80s. This is considered one of Steven Spielberg's greatest pieces of work, and today we're gonna rip it a new plot hole and make sure you never enjoy it again, because I get off on that. But first, we do have to set a few ground rules or we will be here all day. First, I won't be using science to debunk things, or this never gets off the ground. A naked alien who interacts with our bacteria, eats our food, drinks our water, breathes our air, and vice versa. The fact that alien pox isn't a thing by the end, all that shit, fuck it, no science. I'll just be pointing out how stupid and poorly written this film is. So this whole scene where his race lands on Earth to find magical space mushrooms, and some rednecks start chasing E.T. because he's brown and the rest of his people ditch him, forget this scene. If you've never seen E.T., an alien gets marooned in California in the 80s. There, you're all caught up. So it starts in super generic average 80s household where these junior high kids are allowed to smoke, party all night, and play D&D for some reason. Now this is weird because I was around back in the 80s and I'm here to tell you, you couldn't play poker and smoke at the kitchen table as an adolescent. You probably wouldn't even get away with playing D&D. Take that crap to your room. And enter our star, Elliot, the most average kid Steven Spielberg could find. Elliot goes outside to get a pizza for his brother and his much more radical friends in exchange for letting him get in on some of that hot D&D action. On the way back in, he tosses a ball into the shed and... oh. So at this point, we don't know what that was. A pedophile, murder, rapist, murder-rapophile, possibly Drew Barrymore coming back in time to stop herself from being in this piece of garbage. We don't know. But nobody should immediately jump to alien in this situation. We go back inside, and vapid, detached, newly single mom who wants to be her kid's friend more than a parent has joined the party. And her middle child runs in terrified, telling them all that there's something that throws like a girl in the shed. The teenage boys harness the power of their testosterone and grab every knife in the kitchen, while mom does nothing to stop them and just allows vigilante justice to take place. The big brother, Mike, didn't waste any time with this. I'm calling him Mike the Knife from now on. So they go to the shed, they see some E.T. footprints, and decide it's somehow a coyote throwing balls at their brother?
Coyotes come back again, Mom.
Okay, party's over. Everybody
A possibly rabid, baseball-playing coyote. So they all shuffle inside, and keep this in mind. Until they meet E.T., everyone is under the impression there is a rabid predator outside. It'll come up later. And look at this 5-foot turd was here the whole time. With all those lights and people, nobody just glanced to the left. Good job, Mom. Your son knows how to go for the knives, but in the end he fails to achieve both his tracking and alien spotting merit badge, you Cub Scout bitch. So that night, Elliot, whose family pays no attention to them because they're garbage, decides to take a stroll into the cornfield and creepiest imaginable setting at 3 a.m. in his PJs because that's what people do who think a rabid coyote is hunting in the area. I guess he wants to hunt down and confront the alien his big brothers failed to and earn the respect of the tribe and join the next D&D game or whatever. And he probably runs into this! No, that's a completely other video. He sees this instead. Ah yes, screaming in each other's faces, the intergalactic sign of get the hell off my planet, illegal alien. And I'll just point out here that this is quite possibly the most terrifying and traumatic thing that can happen to a child out in a cornfield at 3 a.m. You run into this. You would never forget this. You would never try to be that thing's friend. What the hell? This kid should be inside on the phone with the Air Force and arming up a party with Big Brother Mike the Knife. But instead, because Elliot is autistic and possibly a victim of fetal alcohol syndrome, he just does this. I get that we know E.T. ran away, but just knowing that this exists in the world? should have sent any normal 7-year-old into decades of therapy and heavy medication. So the next day, Elliot decides that he is desperate enough for companionship because his dad left him, his mom is a whore, and his brother's a savage, that he would like to befriend the thing of all 80s children's nightmares. And so he does the logical thing to do when hunting down a member of an advanced alien race that has mastered intergalactic travel, telekinesis, and other weird glowy finger powers. He throws candy on the ground like he's trying to lure a rat. There is no way that's going to work. Oh look, a totally normal looking dude with a set of keys. Must be the government, run! So Elliot returns home empty-handed and engages his entire family in an argument that his story about sneaking out and hunting aliens was totally legit. Mike the Knife is logically working back the actual options.
Maybe it was a pervert or deformed kid or something.
A deformed kid.
Maybe an elf or a leprechaun.
It was nothing like that, penis breath!
Elliot!
Ah, wonderful parenting. I guess we can add calling each other cocksuckers to the list of things she allows in her household along with partying and smoking. So Elliot zings mom knowing that she's a drunken, immature wreck who can't hold it together, and she promptly has a fit.
Maybe you ought to call your father and tell him about it.
I can't. He's in Mexico with Sally.
Wow, way to project your middle-aged cat lady problems onto your kids. Just because your husband took off to Mexico with a younger and more attractive woman is no reason to project that crap on your young. You're supposed to be the adult here. So because Elliot is a little jerk, the family, who still thinks that there's a rabid coyote, a pedophile, or a deformed freak out there, lets him sleep outside at the end of his trail of Reese's Pieces and hopes whatever's coming in the night devours him. Remember, as far as the family knows, the choices of what's out there run the gamut from deformed freak to rabid canine predator. But yeah, Elliot, go ahead and sleep outside, man. E.T. shows up, once again looking as horrifying as possible, and Elliot once again does the opposite thing of what a normal kid would do. The fecal terrestrial offers to share his bounty of trash candy that he scavenged off the ground, because E.T. is so smart and from such an advanced race that he can't see a trap coming a mile away and follows random trails of foodstuffs that he's not sure will kill him or not. And to further drive my point home, Elliot can lure this thing into the house like this. E.T. is a moron. Elliot spends a few minutes playing with his new turd puppet that night and then falls asleep. Meanwhile, the government rednecks, or whoever are onto them, are discovering the trail of Reese's Pieces in the forest. Because the feds would totally associate a couple of spilled candies 500 yards from a densely populated residential area filled with children with a clue that aliens are around here. Ew, trash eater. So the next day, Elliot fakes out single working neglect mom here and stays home to play with his new poo-poo pal. She bails after being outsmarted by the 7-year-old, and Elliot starts teaching E.T. all about the world, including his first edition Kenner Star Wars action figures this dumb cocksucker will regret removing from the box the rest of his miserable life. Now you gotta be wondering what's going through E.T.'s head here, because fun fact, E.T.'s race is canon to the Star Wars universe. And later on Halloween, he recognizes Yoda. So this probably makes E.T. feel pretty uneasy, because Elliot's toys are Lando and a bunch of fucking bounty hunters. Get ready for the carbonite, turd boy. To further ensure that the pecking order is adhered to, he unleashes the pupper on his new poo-poo pal. After having his revenge for E.T. traumatizing him in the cornfield, Elliot makes nice with an offering of food, sure to kill any alien. Seriously, 80s Coke? Probably the worst thing you could feed any unknown organic life form. 80s Coke couldn't even keep itself alive. Mike the Knife shows up, and after granting Elliot absolute power, because this is a high-stakes family apparently,
I have
Absolute power! Yes!
he handles it pretty well, but then Drew Barrymore comes in and fucks the scene up and makes it about her like she does in every movie. Ah yes, another child's dreams turn to pure unadulterated night terrors. E.T.'s work here is done. Drew Barrymore? Remember that talk we had about Courtney Love? Well, imagine that, but instead of murdering her husband, she starts working with Adam Sandler in the mid-90s. Anyway, Chardonnay Fart's secretary mom here comes home and everyone piles into the closet. Mom sees and hears nothing because the mother from E.T. is the most self-centered bedroom mom ever, and they extort silence from Drew Barrymore by threatening to murder her doll in front of her. Meanwhile, the government keys guy and his army of metal detector wielding trash candy eaters is working their way closer after 3 days to civilization, which was about a mile away. Also, it's worth mentioning that this alien search team is the worst covert op team ever. That evening, the kids are feeding E.T. more Earth foods that would probably kill him, and via the power of fruit solar systems, E.T. explains that he's from space. Also, through his new government early warning detection system, he Professor X's to Elliot's mind that the government is outside. Just an editor's note, you guys might want to start being worried that this alien can beam thoughts into your mind. Also, if he can do that, why can't he just explain everything to these kids? Then he brings some flowers back to life, so he can bring stuff back to life, invade your mind, and make things float with his mind. Basically, levitating turd Jesus. And I'm not joking, we'll talk about the weird Jesus imagery later. Just make a mental note. The next morning, everybody goes to school, and Elliot's mom hears something upstairs, but don't worry, she's absolutely blind, so we get treated to this classic scene. Okay, nobody on Earth would miss that cow patty face sin against nature in a pile of fuzzy wuzzies. Cute, cute, colorful, turd with eyes. Cute, colorful. Way to check for danger, Helen Keller. Now this scene is actually pretty funny, because E.T. shows he can be awesome when all these stupid kids aren't around. He throws on a robe and proceeds to get wasted and watch TV. Seems reasonable for a dude stuck in the house after being marooned on a strange planet in the 80s. Due to their new interspecies mind meld, Elliot is also lucky enough to get a tight buzz during science class. It's dissection day, and Elliot is getting out of his mind psychic wasted. Elliot goes completely alpha in his first drunken beer rage, frees the frog, stomps a nerd, and gets some action. Before being dragged off for being too awesome in a Steven Spielberg film. E.T. is busy building his interstellar communications device out of common household products when blind lady McSelf-centered comes home and Drew Barrymore begs her to notice the wasted crap demon circling her knees in the kitchen looking up the skirt of her secretary attire.
Here's who?
I'm from the room, but I think you killed him already.
I mean, just as soon as I unload this stuff, okay?
But she's too busy not noticing other things, like why all the veggies are gone in a house full of kids. Why she was the last one to leave today, and yet the place is trashed. Like, why is all her fucking beer gone? Oh, phone call. It's the school calling to tell her that her son is wasted and sexually assaulted a minor, and she has to come down there and get his unruly ass. So, negligent McNeeds her kids taken, just leaves the preschooler alone and says she'll be back in 10. Elliot comes back home later, hungover, and doesn't need the shit he's about to walk in on. His alien friend is now a lady. Drew Barrymore explains that she taught him to talk, so now in the course of a day, E.T. has the communication skills of a 2-year-old. He uses this new knowledge instead of just psychically telling Elliot or something, which would really help when getting an 8-year-old to Anne Frank you in his room and build devices no human scientist could dream of out of a speaking spell. And we get this classic scene.
E.T. Home phone.
E.T. phone home. E.T. phone home.
Later, while scouring for parts in the garage to build some impossible shit, Mike the Knife is accurately observing that E.T. doesn't look well. Which is normal for a species exposed to millions of new bacteria, and Darth Vader drives by. Yeah, no shit, I didn't edit that. Also, they have the place bugged. Elliot brings back the stuff that E.T. needs and cuts himself like a dumbass, which reveals that in addition to the rest of E.T.'s powers that he squanders and never uses at the right time, he can also heal things with his lantern finger. Not really sure why, if E.T. can heal everybody else, he couldn't heal himself later in the movie, but Darth Plagueis and all that.
The Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
So the next night is Halloween, and Mike the Knife wants to join the Jihad resistance, but in literally the only scene this mom cares about anything, she tells him no.
Listen, Buster, you won't get 4 blocks in this neighborhood dressed like that. Please? No, and that is final. You are not going as a terrorist.
But all the guys are.
Alright, so here's the plan. They're gonna sneak Drew Barrymore out the back door, put a sheet over E.T. like a ghost, pass him off as her, and sneak E.T. out the front door in plain sight of wine drinker McCat Lady. Why they didn't just do this in reverse and sneak E.T. out the back door, who knows, but it doesn't matter because single negligent slut mom notices nothing. even her youngest child grunting and being 2 feet shorter. No shit, look at this. What's that, buddy? Because this mom shouldn't have kids. If not for Mike the Knife running the house, all these kids would be dead by now. I hate this broad. Anyway, it works, and they all meet up to build an interstellar transmitter out of a speak and spell and a saw blade. And Mike the Knife tells Elliot to go do it himself. He's in this for the candy. So Elliot takes E.T. to the forest on his bike, and that's when we get treated to this magical classic 80s scene and the moon imagery. Now, I'm not ashamed to admit, as a 5-year-old watching this, it was a classic and magical scene. But back to ruining this shit. As an adult watching this, I'm like, why did E.T. run away earlier? Why the fuck isn't his flying power used more often? Why didn't he just fly up and go meet his ship in the atmosphere? Why did they even land the spaceship at all? Landing a spaceship on a foreign planet is a direct result of needing to touch the ground. So the other kids come home without Elliot, and when hours pass and Mom has to face the very real fear that she'll be charged with losing a kid, she becomes worried. Elliot's crashed out in a field with his alien buddy after sending their speak and spell message to space, and finds his way home right before Mom is about to end up in cuffs. This is where Elliot tells Mike the Knife that E.T.'s all messed up, and Mike shakes his Darth Vader government trail and hunts down E.T., who's in a ditch all white and dried up like the piece of shit he is. Apparently government copters are looking for them, so Mike the Knife once again just throws a blanket over E.T., which totally tricks the G-Men. And since this situation is about 4 days way out of hand, they finally summon Vapid McDitsy Pants to do something about the crusty toad beast dying in their bathroom. And here we also learn that apparently E.T. is taking Elliot hostage with his mind powers. If E.T. dies, he dies. All Elliot gets out of the arrangement is a beer buzz. E.T. gets these kids to slave and defy their own government and species to help him. Free food, free place to stay, all the beer he can drink, E.T. is hustling these poor people. We're not even getting advanced technology in exchange for this bullshit. Nonetheless, it's time for the climax, so a bunch of astronauts bust in the house like Thriller. Which is dumb because in the 80s there were plenty of other self-contained apparatus for keeping bacteria out. They have them in every hospital. Why lose all your mobility and ability to defend yourself? Anyway, the government arrives and retreated to another blatant George Lucas ripoff. But like we learned, E.T. is canon to Star Wars, so we can let that shit go. So instead of taking the alien to a controlled, isolated, clean facility where they could keep him alive and not alert the public to the existence of aliens and secret organizations to monitor those aliens, they wrap the house in saran wrap and attach it to a van? Yeah. Anyone going in and out of this house has to do it through a fucking 1983 Ford Econoline. That sucks. That also doesn't exactly keep bacteria and microorganisms in and out, so why are you wrapping the house up? And also, somehow the national news media and neighbors aren't alerted to this shit going down. Anyway, E.T. and Elliot are both dying, and everyone's asking Elliot what to do after turning the house into a makeshift surgery. And he tells the scientists that apparently E.T. is some manner of hive mind creature, and without proximity to the rest of his race, he crusts up like an old booger and dies. Which explains why he started mind melding with Elliot, now that I think about it, to use him as a temporary battery. E.T. is an asshole. And as if just to highlight this, E.T. now dies. And suddenly, Elliot's all better. Yay! The curse of the alien gypsy turd is lifted, right? Wrong. Just when this movie should end, the flowers come back to life, and apparently E.T.'s ship made a U-turn just in time, and they need to get him to the same landing site. Elliot tells Mike the Knife, and Mike steals a van and alerts his BMX gang it's time to ride. After jacking a government van, the gang meets up with Mike the Knife and Elliot in a park in broad daylight to ditch the efficient fast mode of transportation and switch them out for bikes. Maybe there was no road up the hill beside their house or something. What's that? Oh, I know, I was just about to mention that. He got marooned on Earth, he's pure of heart, and now, in case the metaphor wasn't clear enough, we get the blatantest Jesus imagery you ever saw in your life. But no time to pray. It's BMX time. Mike the Knife throws a blanket over E.T. so nobody knows that he's there for good measure, and the chase is on. Now there are too many dumbass things to say about this scene to do here in this video, but I'll try. Why can't the cars go faster than 10 miles an hour? Why can't they catch a few 6th graders on bikes? Why do the kids split up and the cars follow half of them when one kid obviously has the alien in a basket on the front? Oh, the blanket. Good plan, Mike. Finally paid off. Why do these cars just say US government on the side? Why aren't they sniping these kids? Why was the neighborhood allowed to throw a block party? Whatever. The kids are about to get away, but they run into a roadblock built by the government. And this happens. And now I'm pissed. Thanks, E.T., you dickhead. We could have flown out of the house. So it takes them hours to get to the top of the hill above Elliot's house because they wanted to get this cool sunset shot. And to highlight how badass Mike the Knife's gang is, they actually landed this time. E.T. appears to be in severe cardiac arrest, but they arrive just in time to meet E.T.'s brightly lit ship landing about a mile away from where the government redneck assassins are looking for them. And it's time to say goodbye, which is good because E.T.'s heart is in a fatal arrhythmia. And Mom and Drew Barrymore arrive, showing that there is a road to this fucking spot! Why ditch the van? That would have been super convenient and saved us some time earlier. And E.T. comforts Drew Barrymore, tells her to be good and not to worry. The wedding singer will revive her career for a while after years of childhood heroin use. Yeah, she ended up doing Playboy and shows her tits in a movie called Boys on the Side. It's not really worth it, though. E.T. offers to let Elliot come with him to escape his negligent mother and the constant abuse of Mike the Knife, but he decides to stay since he's not Star-Lord, and E.T. bails. After making his ship wait 5 minutes so he can hug a kid. And then this happened.
I'll be right here.
Right? Nobody got that, man. E.T. says the psychic link remains. Elliot's life is tied to his, and when E.T. dies or gets too far away, Elliot's gone. Then he takes the flowers and leaves because what E.T. takes, he keeps, including your soul, apparently. And on the way out, they make everybody gay as a joke. So that was E.T. The Extra-Terrestrial. It was terrible, it was stupid, and if you think about it, they should have let E.T. die in that box. Because then the government might have left them alone under surveillance to live in peace unless they talked to somebody. But best case scenario now, everyone's in prison except Elliot, who is kept in a lab as they try to figure out ways to exploit the E.T. mind meld connection. Worst case scenario, the last thing this kid feels is the cold steel of a barrel in the back of his head before it's lights out. E.T. is the story of a crap alien who meets even crappier people. He holds the child's life hostage and uses them to achieve his ends, with no care about how their lives will be ended at the hands of their own government shortly thereafter. Enjoy your movie, guys. Let's get out of here, kid.